What's up? It's Andrew from the band Ripped to Shreds, and today we're going to be talking about 5 child-unfriendly sing-along choruses in death metal. First one is from the Peruvian band Mortem. They've been active since the 80s, all the way until now. And I think out of any band that has had such a long career, they're probably the only one that has never put out a bad album. Pretty much all of them are, fucking bangers. Angel of Apostasy is the first track off their last album, Danos Necromantis, from 2016. They're really overdue for a new album. I'm hoping it comes soon. Leading into the chorus, have a very morbid angel type built on like sliding octaves around the D root. Also, the tabs are a little bit different from what I played because they either played in like D standard or E flat or A sharp, and I just played all of it on my B standard guitar and pitch corrected it after recording. So the chorus riff is built around these flat fives moving up in minor thirds. It just kind of like ratchets up the tension more and more until we get this little tag, die, parasite. The rhythm of this is probably designed to let Fernand sing as easily as possible. Because live, Fernand sings and plays guitar at the same time. You can see that the rhythm of the riff kind of matches. It's a very important part that we need to take into account when we're pulling double duty on vocals and guitar. What I think makes this chorus so memorable is just very simple idea repeated over and over. All of Mortem's albums are filled with these very simple but memorable choruses, and I think that's a big hallmark of their music. This is the big heavy hitter, right? Cannibal's Kill or Become from their 2016 album Skeletal Domain. Pre-chorus bit starts kind of like I can see it as... You can maybe think of it as based on E. Because right after this, it'll go up an octave to the which is kind of like... So we're on the E note down here, and then we get this diminished, again, based around E. If this song was written by Alex Webster, I would assume that there's like some kind of complicated analysis going behind it. According to the album credits, it was written by Rob Barrett. I'm assuming that it's probably just based on what he thought sounded cool between each repetition of the pre-chorus riff. And this is just stacking flat fives. And sliding up a half step, it's like an out-of-key thing that just sounds cool in context. And there's this cool interplay between George's voice, where he goes, fire up the chainsaw, and we've got the chunky part going. And then as soon as his voice is done, moves into the trembling part. Hack all their heads off. I think moving between the fast tremolo bits and the chunky groovy parts gives his vocal a little bit more support. It builds up momentum going into the next vocal part. Now, once we hit the actual chorus, it goes and then... So the chunky bit is still built off that diminished E triad idea. I guess with this major third, it's more like harmonic minor. But this... I mean, these two notes are like in key, but these introduce kind of like a major ish tonality. It sounds very strange. I guess that's part of what makes Cannibal sound like Cannibal. And part of what makes this chorus really great is that it's got the very staccato phrasing. If you want to live, you have to kill or become. There's a reason songwriters always say, keep it simple, stupid. It sticks in your head better that way. And also, fire up the chainsaws is just such a memorable line. Probably one of Cannibal's most memorable, up there with like, I feel something inside, I feel like killing you. Or, you know, I come blood. You become a factoid. Come ahead, I take your inside too. You know, see the thing that I've done. You are alone, you like me, it's fun. And I should preface this by saying that their first album is obviously super misogynistic and pretty much exclusively features sexual violence against women. I think they probably felt they went a bit too far because they almost immediately started walking it back a little bit on the album right after this, and then, you know, when they put out their new album, all that violent stuff is completely gone. But I guess that will demonetize this video. The riff is just entirely in B minor. And this kind of pedal point stuff is maybe a little bit similar to Bolt Thrower, Realm of Chaos, and to an extent, In Battle There Is No Law. They were still very much doing these, like, type of riffs. And the drums on this are very atypical for what you would find in a death metal song, because you've got the snare doing like a 4 on the floor, dun, 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 and then the kicks are all on the upbeat. It makes it very dancey. The vocal rhythms with the high and the low part, dun da 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 da. It's very sing-songy, catchy, despite the actual words they're saying. Kind of typical of what Razorback bands from the early 2000s were doing. I've covered Impaled like at least 3 or 4 times on this channel already. So it starts with which is just based on like a D minor arpeggio. And this major third is just like a color note to make it a little bit different. And then on the second bit we go into, which is just still in D. Once we hit the actual chorus, we get this thrashy bit that goes. I guess you might call that like a Slayer type cliche. To me, that's very Slayer. Then you just move it down a half step. And then we end on the root note, which is D. And then we have this little... I wouldn't really call that any particular scale. I would view it as based on the sounds of the flat 5 and the flat 2, making it sound more evil. And that's, you know, kind of like a typical death metal, thrash metal, extreme metal vocabulary. So Sean's voice is very clear and understandable. It goes like clinically depressed or just feeling morose. And then you got the gang shout. And live now they have like 4 people doing vocals, so it's like really big, right? Everyone comes in, up the dose, cursory inspection, and you'll be diagnosed. Up the dose. Keeping that shout chorus part as simple and as short as possible helps it stick. Well, the songwriting for this one obeys the most important rule of thumb for pop songwriting, which is don't bore us, get to the chorus. I think it's like 15 seconds before they get into the chorus on this song. Deicide, sacrificial suicide. They play in E flat, I'm tuned to E, so I just pitched down my guitar half step in software. I perceived it as octaves. This is, you know, very simple. based around the octave of flat 2, and we have the minor 7. The other bit is, and there's your flat 5. Those constructions, again, you'll find it everywhere. I think the rhythm of this is also adapted so that it's easier to sing the chorus part, you know? Suicide, sacrifice, destruction of holy life. Deicide's choruses in general are total fucking classic, super catchy, super memorable. You sing suicide in a song, you'll immediately piss off your parents, your teachers. Great fucking band. One of my absolute favorites when it comes to choruses. But of course, we have to have a bonus one, because I'm not going to forget the most catchy part in all of death metal. I'm not going to leave it out, right? It's the breakdown part from Sacrificial Suicide. I'm pretty sure they didn't record this to a click in the studio, and I'm not really sure if it's like a strict 3/4 time signature on the turnaround going It sounds like they speed up a little bit on the recording. What can you say about this part that hasn't been said before? Every single time he goes, Satan, suicide. The riff is super chunky. This Satan shout part just gets me every time. The vocals here are super fucking catchy and super memorable, and it's just one of the best parts of Deicide. Okay, that is all for today, folks. I hope I will see you guys in Toronto, because we're playing there at the start of August with Cancer and Putrid Pile, and I think Dave Elefson's new band or whatever. Don't forget, blast fast, eat ass, and stay chainsaw. Peace.